called Teacher Guidelines for Crisis Response. And a quote I got from that was, there are two kinds of schools, those that have faced a serious crisis situation and those that will. So to start out, we're going to define what a crisis actually is. From the article, it says a crisis is a traumatic event that is typically unpredicted and overwhelming for those who experience it. And it may involve a threat to the survival of an individual. It could result in a drastic change, especially to a familiar environment such as home or school. And it could invoke a sense of vulnerability and helplessness in the individuals who experience it. So I have an activity, and it's in two parts. So at your tables, if you want to join a table or a group, I'm going to have you think of an example of a crisis situation that could possibly occur in a school setting. And it could be something you've heard on the news. It can be something major or minor. It doesn't have to be huge. And then I'll have you write it up on the left side of the whiteboard once you think of it. You can put it over there too, that's okay. We'll go through it. Okay, so we have school fire, unexpected death of a student, unexpected illness or death of a teacher, shooting, or a tornado. So I had examples from the article, like an accident involving a student or faculty member, such as a death or just an accident in general, violence of some kind, which is what the shooting would fit under, a fire, or a natural disaster, which could be a tornado, a flood, anything sort of like that. So keep those in mind, we'll come back to it in a minute. After a crisis happens, it's important that there is some sort of response, and there is going to be a response. As defined, it's a proactive, organized, and well-thought-out plan to a crisis situation that has adversely or negatively affected many individuals, including students, faculty, and administrators. And there are two different kinds of responses. There's proactive and reactive. And proactive is highlighted because that's what you want your response to be. You want it to be organized, planned, and practiced, and that will reduce the short and long-term consequences of the crisis. So if you have, at a school, you have fire drills all the time, that's a proactive type of response because everybody knows what to do. And then a reactive response is spontaneous, not fully thought out, planned, or practiced, and it's less effective in reducing long-term consequences of the crisis. That's just basically panic, and what is your first response? So some behaviors that come with a crisis and crisis response, especially in children, would be regression in behavior. This is behavior that they would fall back to, that they've done at a younger age, such as thumb-sucking, bedwetting, fears of the dark, and separation anxiety. They could also have increase in fears and anxiety, decreased academic performance and poor concentration, increased aggression and oppositional behavior, and decreased frustration tolerance. So this could be something as simple as refusing to do their chores at home or doing schoolwork. Also, there could be increased irritability, emotional liability, and depressive feelings. So the children could be feeling a general sense of sadness or worry, or they could have a loss of interest in their activities that they once really liked. And then denial, which is common in a lot of children. They may deny that the crisis actually even And then with time and support, children they can come to accept the reality of the situation if they're gently confronted about the reality of the situation, and that's what we discussed with the teachers. So the second part of your activity, with the crisis you put up on the board, think of specific behaviors that could be expected as a result of your crisis. And they don't have to be ones we previously discussed on the slide. They could just be like physical behaviors like worry or like anxiety, something like that. So maybe write down 2 or 3 and then we'll go over.
Do you want these written down or we just discuss it? Yeah. There's a word, but you don't know what it is.
Do you want these on the board or we're just going to discuss that? Okay. Okay, we'll start with the back table over there. They had the unexpected illness or death of a teacher and shooting. So name off 2 things that you thought would be typical behaviors.
We said separation anxiety, that students might not be wanting to separate from their loved ones, and withdrawal from their friends and family.
Right. And then your table you had the school fire.
We said another word for chaos, like being rushed and disorganized and
Oh, the other was anxiety.
anxiety.
Okay. And then you guys?
We discussed, ours was unexpected death of a student. We discussed the stages of grief, so anger, denial. We can't remember. Acceptance is one, and we can't remember the 5th one.
Okay. And then you guys have the tornado.
We said panic and anxiety.
Okay. So anxiety is common in a lot of these just because they don't know what's happening and they don't know how to cope with it. But that's where the teacher's role comes in. So you as the teacher have a role to help with crisis response and help with the students. So you can tell the students what happened in a manner that they can understand this. Of course, you have to take their age and their functioning level into consideration. If they're completely in hysterics, they're not going to understand what you're saying even if you're saying it. You just have to talk to them in a manner that they can understand. You as the teacher consult with school personnel such as a school psychologist, social worker, or guidance counselor. Don't be afraid to reach out for extra help. Be aware of students who are experiencing significant difficulty in comparison to their peers. They may require more help than you can provide them, which is, again, where school psychologists, social worker, and guidance counselors could come in. You as the teacher should model appropriate expression of feelings for students and let them know that it's okay to express what they're feeling because a crisis is scary. They have to deal with it somehow. But at the same time, remain in control of your own emotions while dealing with the students. It's hard because you've experienced the crisis too and it affects you, but you still need to have appropriate behavior when dealing with them. And a good way to do this is utilize classroom activities and assignments that address students' feelings regarding the crisis. And then remember that crisis intervention is ongoing. It won't just end after a few days, and remain sensitive to this after the crisis. So the big ideas from this reading: remind students that the response to a crisis can be viewed as a normal response to an abnormal situation. While the emotional effects of the crisis can be significant, students will recover from the effects of a crisis with adequate support from you and other adults. And by having a proactive response plan, we as future teachers can be better equipped to cope with the situation may arise. And that's all.